Welcome to 99th Monkey Liberty News for Monday, July 14th, 2014. And yeah, as I've mentioned, today is the first day of a BRICS conference where they're talking about implementing their new bank. So there's that going on, although I don't have an article for that. I did see some this morning. I am beginning this morning with this article from the Mirror. Tory child abuse whistleblower, I supplied underage rent boys for Margaret Thatcher's cabinet ministers. Whistleblower and former Conservative Party activist Anthony Gilberthorpe says he provided child prostitutes for a sex and drugs party with top politicians. So the evidence is just gushing out, really, about what has taken place in the UK. And this morning, I'm going to touch on just a couple things that I don't normally give much attention to. This is from Koila Pele's blog, Secret Space War 17, who runs the new NSA facility at Bluffdale, Utah. This is all about white Nordic aliens and the Dracos, the evil aliens. Do I believe this? Not deep in my heart, no. But so many people do, and some people whom I respect, that I did want to acknowledge this blog. And it's not completely outside the range of possibility. So for what it's worth, and again, you know, this I've mentioned the whole idea of aliens. Could they be angels and demons? Yes, sure they could. But God, at the same time, is big enough, and creation is big enough that it would be arrogant of us probably to believe that we are the only sentient beings who He's created. Of course, the angels He also created. And there are probably other kinds of beings out there that we are not directly aware of at this time. So I think it's better to keep an open mind in case some of these things do turn out to be true. Then at least we can have, you know, maybe at least processed to some extent. I'm also mentioning today the road at Yellowstone. You have probably heard that a road melted at Yellowstone. And some people have their finger on the panic button about this, believing that the caldera is about to erupt. Again, that is not something that can be completely ruled out. You know, that if you've ever seen the movie 2012, Woody Harrelson plays some crazy guy that's waiting at Yellowstone for the caldera to erupt. And in that film, it turns out that the crazy guy was right. So I don't believe this is going to happen. And one of the main reasons I don't, frankly, is because I believe that God has a different plan. And I also, I'm thankful for David Wilcock having been given dreams that lead him to believe that there's not going to be some kind of a huge disaster, but that we are going to have some events that lead us into a greater degree of freedom and true security, not the false security that comes from NSA promises to watch us all into safety. Here's another article about the caldera, what's the road melting. This is from Dutch Sins. And I actually, over the weekend, I did go to the Yellowstone website. Yes, this road is closed. It's, it's the National Parks website about Yellowstone. They have closed this road, and therefore it's not possible for people to get to the lake. It's by fire pot lake or something like that. So Yellowstone, the park acknowledges that there is something going on here. Just for context, I have been to Mount Lassen, which is the site of a volcano in Northern California. And at times they do find it necessary to close some of the attractions because they act up. I mean, it's an active volcano. There is volcanic activity at Yellowstone, and that means that, you know, sometimes there are changing conditions. And hopefully not too terribly, dramatically changing conditions. I also haven't said a whole lot about what's going on between Israel and Palestine right now. It's all stirred up. This is an article from the Jerusalem Post. Israel wanted Assad gone since start of Syria civil war. And this is an older article. This is actually from September of 2013. But this is the reality. There are things that, I mean, Israel is being used to stir up strife in the Middle East. And certainly there are a lot of Bible verses about Israel praying for the peace of Jerusalem. And I agree with all of those. I'm not tuning any of those out. But they have also been, this has been used as a weakness among Christians to convince us that we need war in the Middle East. And I just happened this morning to read a passage in Romans 2, and I think this gives some context to what we hear and see about Israel, what we're led to believe, how people try to get us incited so that we will go along with war in the Middle East. First of all, I mean, this whole passage, worth reading this whole chapter, but I'm going to try to just pick up somewhere here. Let's try verse 6. Righteous judgment of God, who will render to each person according to his deeds, to those who by perseverance in doing good seek for glory and honor and immortality, eternal life. But to those who are selfishly ambitious and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, wrath, and indignation, there will be tribulation and distress for every soul of man who does evil, of the Jew first, and also of the Greek. But glory and honor and peace to everyone who does good, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. See, there's not a distinction. The eternal consequences come to us all after the same manner. And verse 11, there is no partiality with God. For all who have sinned without the law will also perish without the law, and all who have sinned under the law will be judged by the law. For it is not the hearers of the law who are just before God, but the doers of the law will be justified. For when Gentiles who do not have the law do instinctively the things of the law, these, not having the law, are a law to themselves, in that they show the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience bearing witness, and their thoughts alternately accusing or else defending them, on the day when, according to my gospel, God will judge the secrets of men through Jesus Christ. And there's more, you know, if you bear the name Jew and rely upon the law and boast in God and know his will and approve the things that are essential, being instructed of the law and are confident that you yourself are a guide to the blind, a light to those who are in darkness, a corrector of the foolish, a teacher of the immature, having in the law the embodiment of knowledge and of the truth, you therefore who teach another, do you not teach yourself? This passage is all about it's great to have been raised under the Jewish law, to know the law. But the reality is, it's not the heritage. that gives you a place with God. It's your own response. It's your own life. It's your own heart. It's your own behavior. So I just want to address this because somehow Christians have been led to hold Jews and especially Israel and Jerusalem in some kind of awe. And I believe this passage negates that. I believe that we've been misled. I believe that we've been misdirected. And I believe that we've been deceived from the time of the Bushes being presidents, the first George Bush being president. Christians, and probably even before that, Christians were being led into this place of believing that we need to fight for Israel, physically fight. And it's great if we pray and wrestle and do battle on our knees, that's great, but to actually call for killing of Palestinians, many of whom actually are Christians, it really doesn't make sense. This broke a few years ago, and I have not talked a lot about it, but from InfoWars from February of 2009, church organization refuses to divulge if pastors are on FEMA payroll. And this is all about the Clergy Response team. And I just want to remind us all as Christians that pastors have been drawn in to help placate Christians, to encourage Christians to go along with the government. And here's a KSLA news report confirmed that clergy response teams are being trained by the federal government to quell dissent and pacify citizens to obey the government in the event of a declaration of martial law. And this again was an idea under the first George Bush presidency. He wanted faith-based initiatives, and at the time we thought those were a great thing. Because we thought that that faith-based solutions were going to be funded. Well, as it turns out, what was actually funded were programs to use clergy to help brainwash and mind control Christians. And I actually have a friend who's a pastor who, after a hurricane in, I think it was Florida, was enlisted, and this was many, many years ago, this was maybe 15, 20 years ago, was enlisted to go help comfort people and just be there as a pastor in the camp set up by the government to the temporary place where people could live. And it's great. I thought at the time, I was excited about that. It's great if there can be a pastor there counseling people, encouraging people, helping people. But that marriage of federal government with church is really, it's contrary to the First Amendment. And especially if pastors are paid to do something like that. It's a clear breach of separation of church and state. Not, what we're told is a breach of separation of church and state when Christians express political opinions. That is not a breach of First Amendment rights. But hiring clergy and having clergy response teams and putting pastors on the FEMA payroll, that is a breach of the First Amendment, and something of which we as Christians need to be aware. If we're going to a church where the pastor is a member of a clergy response team paid to placate Christians and direct Christians to hold opinions that benefit, the federal government or someone running the federal government, that we need to be aware. And when we begin to hear things like that idea coming from the pulpit, like the twist of Romans 13 to, submit yourself to the rulers. No matter what they do, it's time to either talk to your pastor or find a different church, or maybe just ask God what to do. This is another article about something that I don't often talk about. This is from a website about revaluations of currencies and global financial reset. And the opinion of this person, who remains anonymous, is we are 99.85% there. And this article addresses not only a global financial reset, but also a behind-the-scenes house cleaning that has been going on to get rid of bad guys, to put it simply. And this week's Fulford also states that that is occurring, that bad guys are being gotten rid of. And this part is something that he gave away for free, so I will read it. Let's start with the ISIS campaign. Here is what MI5 and other intelligence agencies have been able to put together recently. ISIS is controlled by the CIA RAND Corporation from headquarters in the U.S. Embassy in Ankara, Turkey. This supports earlier claims from separate sources that an outfit known as the Jamestown Foundation runs CIA training bases in Turkey. ISIS also has its own nuclear capability outside of any formal government control, the sources say. In addition, it has been determined that the satellite communications used by ISIS are controlled out of Jerusalem. At the same time, the ISIS drones are run out of the U.S. military base of Fort Huachuca in Arizona. Moreover, genuine Muslims in Iraq are saying the ISIS fighters do not look like Muslims and do not act like Muslims. The locals are also very suspicious of the American SUVs. And another thing that Fulford mentions is, and this is a pretty positive report this week, he also mentions that there is a call for more answers about 9/11. And interestingly enough, and this is kind of leaning toward good news here, in New York City, there is a high-rise safety initiative. Comprehensive disaster investigations mean increased safety. They mean positive change. And this organization is calling for an investigation of building collapses. And they're not calling for investigation of the two towers that fell on 9/11, but they are calling for an investigation of the collapse of Building 7. So I think there's potential here, and this is a big deal. It seems like they have a lot of momentum, and I think there's some potential for an investigation to be opened up, and much more truth to come out. I'm putting this forth as good news. It's 126 pages. The Great American Adventure. This is a PDF. Secrets of America. Political History of Government and Law by Judge Dale, retired. This is chock full of information. A lot of background, a lot of history. It's all very significant, and if you have questions about if you're not sure, if you feel like there are gaps in what you know about American history, this you might find helpful. Thank you for tuning in for today's 99th Monkey Liberty News. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Hoping that you will love one another, take care, and enforce the Bill of Rights.